everyone, and happy Farmers Market Week. I know we're getting towards the end of it. It's the 2nd through the 8th of every year. So if you haven't gone to the Farmers Market yet, highly encourage you to go and celebrate this special week. Also, any other week of the year, celebrate your farmers, eat local through CSAs, farm stands, farmers markets, your own backyard. It's a great reminder to have this week to remember what delicious produce we have surrounding us in our own communities. So my name is Hannah, and I am a nutrition educator with Cornell Cooperative Extension of Jefferson County. And welcome to my kitchen. We're here for another video in the series, What Can I Cook With? And today, a little bit of a surprise. I didn't tell you all what we were going to be cooking with. Thought I'd give you a little bit of a guessing game. So what I will be cooking with today, you can milk and has ears. That, I hope it's kind of stumping you all because it would have stumped me, but it's corn. And I will be showing you how you can milk corn as part of today's lesson. That was kind of a surprise for me. So I'm excited to know that it's called that. And then it comes in ears. So there you go. All right. So today we are going to be making a sweet corn gazpacho. And part of this is a little bit selfish of me because it's pretty hot here in my kitchen and I didn't use my stove or my oven that much. But gazpacho is a great way to use up some delicious produce because it's chilled. That can sometimes highlight some of the flavors, make it a little bit crisper and cooler. So when it's hot out and you want something to sip on, here's a way to sip on your veggies. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with our corn. So I've got my ear of corn here. I like to leave the end on while I'm cutting it off. I think it makes it a little bit easier, but I have already husked it for us. So I find the easiest way to dekernel my cob is to have some sort of upside down bowl. This is an upside down Tupperware container inside the middle of a bigger bowl. So I can rest my corn on there. Make sure it's sturdy. I like this one because it's got a little bit of a lip so it can gently rest in there. And then you take your chef's knife and we're just going to cut down. And again, just go slow, be careful. So as I mentioned before, this is a great recipe for using kind of whatever produce you like. You have, oops, I am spraying corn everywhere. All right, and careful not to dig too deep. We don't want a lot of that fibrous bit in our gazpacho. Go ahead and clean off my knife. So again, getting creative. Historically, so gazpacho, from a little bit of research I did, really originates from Andalusia, Spain. And there traditionally, it is bell peppers, cucumbers, and tomatoes, along with some extra oil and some vinegar. So we're doing a little bit of a riff on that. So I should say this is actually the part that is called milking the corn. And so I'm taking the dull end or the spine of a butter knife, and I'm pushing it into the corn and running it down the length of it. So you can see this is a little bit of a messy process. I think my filming screen might have some corn juice on it after. But it comes off in a lot of the juice, the milk, as it were, of the corn comes out, and you get all those little pieces of the kernels that are stuck in there. And then just giving it a good once over, get all those good pieces. Of course, you don't have to worry too much about getting all the little kernels because I found some extra uses for this corn on the cob, which means that it won't go to waste. So I've got my bag here of my used up corns, and you can actually use these to make a corn stock. So covering them up in a big pot with water, any spices that you like, and then boiling it until the stock is a rich golden brown. And you can use that to sub for vegetable broth, or I even saw some suggestions for using it as a poaching liquid, which is pretty cool. I always feel bad about throwing away my corn cobs, and they're So, just get all the corns off your container. Perfect. One of the nice things about gazpacho is it's kind of like a savory sweet, and because it's blended and it's not strained or anything like that, you're getting all of the fiber that's in your vegetables. So now I've got a cucumber. I'm just going to roughly chop it so it will blend easier. Oh, so as I was saying, it's going to have all that delicious fiber going on, which will help keep you feeling full. So even though it's a soup and sometimes those might not feel like the most filling dish that you can have, because it's got all this fiber and nutrients in it, it can keep you feeling full and satisfied for longer. I'm just going to add this to my blender. I should show you this beautiful bowl I have here on the side with all my produce that I will be using. All right. And I've got a tomato, so I'm just going to roughly chop this up. If you have a yellow tomato and you would like to have more of a yellow soup, that is really, really pretty. You'll see I'll be using a yellow bell pepper. As it is, it will be kind of like a light pink. But it's a fun way to play with the colors. I'm just going to go ahead and throw this in. So I saw this this gazpacho referred to online as a farmer's market soup, which is fantastic. Mine is not necessarily a farmer's market soup today, but it is a CSA box soup. So all of the produce I'm using today is from my CSA box, which is pretty exciting to me. Adding that in. Then, as I mentioned, I had my yellow bell pepper, but of course you could use whatever color bell pepper you like. And just like to think, was it last week that we talked about bell peppers? Yes, it was. We made our sloppy joes, our garden sloppy joes. Those were a big hit in my house. They were gone pretty quickly. Okay, so again, just giving this a rough chop. But as I was saying, this is kind of the best way that I found to cut off bell peppers is to take the top off and then just scoop out the seeds. And I'm going to be done with my cutting board. I like to save the bell pepper for last because it can get kind of messy. So then I just give it a rough chop. Everything's going to blend up really well together. I should. Move it in. Okay. Perfect. So 1 bell pepper, 1 tomato, a large tomato, 1 cucumber, and then this was about 3 ears of corn. Let's go ahead and drop this into my blender. If you have a smaller blender or food processor, you might want to do this in 2 batches. But I think this looks so pretty with all of the different colors going on there. All right, and then I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of our, extra virgin olive oil. So again, the extra virgin olive oil is one of our heart-healthy fats, those unsaturated fats that we look for. And then I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of sherry. And you could sub in another type of vinegar if you wanted to, like a red wine vinegar would be good. But the vinegar is important for creating an emulsion. And I know we've talked about before that when you have an acid and a fat, so our vinegar and our oil, and you blend them together, you get what's called an emulsion, and that helps it just taste really, really creamy. So that's going to be helpful for creating a delicious texture. So I've got that over there. So here's my blender. Now I don't think I know how to mute myself on here, so if you have me turned up, make sure you turn the volume down, or this might get a little bit loud right now. But we're just going to blend it until it's smooth and creamy. Okay, I'll be done for now. So if your volume's down, you're welcome to turn it back up. I promise not to make any more loud noises. Okay, so let's take a peek at what this looks like. We'll keep blending this for a little bit longer. I just don't want to put you in a position where you're just standing here watching me blend some soup. So now's a good time to give it a little bit of taste. I think it will need some salt and pepper. It does taste like a farmer's market. Oh, that's so refreshing. Okay, I am going to add a little bit of salt and pepper, though. Big salt can help foods taste more like themselves and brighten it up a little bit. Okay, I just blanked on whether or not I actually added the sherry. I'm pretty sure I did. It tastes like I did. Oh, man, these Thursdays. So I'm adding in 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And I'm just going to give it a few good cranks of black pepper. And again, the pepper is kind of to taste. You can add more a little bit later on when you're actually serving. But again, I'm going to blend this until it's a little bit smoother. You can see there are still some chunks in there, and I want it to just be a really smooth soup. If it doesn't get to the consistency that you want, maybe the cucumbers or the corn you had weren't releasing enough moisture, you can add in just some plain water, or if you have some corn broth that you've made with your corn cobs, you can put a little bit of that in there for an extra boost of corny flavor for this class next time. Okay, so super simple recipe. We've got our corn and gazpacho. This is best when it's a little bit chilled, I think, so make it a couple hours at least before you make it, put it in the fridge, and then you can go ahead and serve it. The other thing is, like many soups, it does get better with time in the fridge to allow all the flavors to meld. So it's really going to be best on day 2 or 3. So real quick, I'm going to show you one simple corn recipe. So I've just got my cast iron skillet. I have a little bit of olive oil going on in here. I have a little bit of reserved corn. And both these recipes I want to mention, even though while it's in season, corn can be a really delicious, full of flavor, and especially if you are getting it from somewhere close by to you where it doesn't have to sit in a processing plant. You're getting it from a farmer who often will deliver it the same day that it's picked. You can make this recipe in other times of the year when corn's not in season by using canned or frozen corn. So I know I always say that when you heat up the oil enough, it will spread, and I kind of just... But sometimes it's, it can be kind of therapeutic to push things around a pan. All right, so the oil is starting to shimmer though, so that so I know that it is warm and hot enough. So I'm just gonna add in my corn. And I'm hearing a little bit of sizzle, that's great. So my skillet is on hot, or on high. Smoky garnish for our gazpacho, which will complement the flavors very well. So now the hard part is to not touch it and let it actually blacken on one side. We'll just keep a close eye on it. One other tip I saw for using up your corn cobs, and I haven't tried this one yet, so I'm not sure how well it really works, but I saw a lot of folks on the internet saying if you dry them out, so leave them out in the sun, dry them out, they make excellent fire starters. So that might be an option for you as well. I think there's a lot of other uses. I briefly saw something about corn cob jelly. So if you're feeling ambitious and really want to use up those extra corn cobs, definitely look around. There seems like there's some projects that you could use them for. Okay, so it's sizzling a little bit. Some of them are jumping up slightly. I'm just going to give it a couple more minutes, and then I'm going to give it a nice little stir. So as I mentioned, this is going to be a garnish for our gazpacho, though some other delicious garnishes would be basil. I think corn and basil is a fantastic pairing. Just a simple corn and basil and tomato salad is enough for dinner for me most nights. And you could also use, like, if you have some other kind of microgreens that you like to use, some other herbs. I've heard folks enjoy either parsley or cilantro as a little bit of a chopped garnish. If you wanted to make this not as a cold soup, but as a hot soup, you could do what we just did and then blend it. Or sorry, you could do what we did until the blending and then heat it up. And that would be delicious as more of a fall soup, if you don't mind using vegetables that are a little bit out of season. But then you could use like toasted pumpkin seeds on top as a garnish and really go creative. All right, so they're blackening up a little bit. I'm not sure if you can really tell. But making this blackened corn is great not only as a garnish, but if you make it in larger quantities, I like adding some smoked paprika on it, and it's a really great side of tacos also. When I was looking up recipes for today, I knew I wanted to make something a little bit cooler, something that I didn't. Now I'm over the stove right now, but that didn't require a lot of stove or oven time. And so I was seeing gazpachos. And there are a lot of really interesting types. So you might not, if the idea of a cold vegetable soup seems like something that you might not want to try just yet. Oops, you see that one pop? There are some really delicious fruit-based gazpachos that use watermelon, cantaloupe, honeydew, pears. It can be a really refreshing way, especially during summer when sometimes our appetites aren't always what they are. We're not as hungry as often, but our bodies still need nutrients to keep going. So drinking or eating this chilled soup. Okay. And then after this point, I'll scoop some up for you. You can see maybe it's a little bit blackened on the edges. I guess it doesn't look as blackened on the screen as it does in person. But you just want to get a nice char on it to really bring out those smoky flavors, let the sugars and the starches in the corn caramelize a little bit, really develop those flavors. But after this point, it's really up to your own personal preference. So you might try it different times or different temperatures, different degrees of char each time you try it. Try not to get them too burnt, but just see what you enjoy the most. And the same with the gazpacho. If you make it and it tastes a little bit too tomatoey, maybe use a half a tomato, use more corn or cucumbers or bell pepper. It really is just play around. You can always add a little bit of liquid. You can always add a little more vegetables to thicken it up a little bit. But so that's the basic recipe. You got your produce, your acid, and your fat, and then some salt and pepper for seasoning. And you can't really go wrong. So if you make this recipe or you make some other fun gazpacho from whatever you get this week for Farmers Market Week or in future weeks, please be sure to share it with us. You can find us at Cornell Cooperative Extension of Jefferson County on Facebook, and you can message us on there or feel free to reach out to us through our website. We have all of our contact information there. Thank you for joining me for this super simple no-cook recipe. We hope to see you all again soon.